I'm 31 now, and if you met me, you'd probably think I'm a pretty standard guy. Nothing flashy. I run a logistics consulting firm I built from the ground up. When I started in my mid-20s, I didn't have much, just a beat-up laptop, a small apartment I could barely afford, and a non-stop current of anxiety pushing me forward. Those first few years, brutal. I worked 80-hour weeks, lived off instant noodles, and funneled every penny back into the business. Sleep was optional, comfort wasn't even on the table, but eventually, it paid off. About 2 years ago, I landed a big contract, then another. After years of grinding in the dark, I finally stepped into the light. My company became profitable, very profitable, and for the first time, I could breathe. That's the life I was living when I met Kayla. She was 20, working as a receptionist when we crossed paths. Her dream was to become a fine arts curator. She had the passion, the eye for aesthetics, the knowledge, but she didn't have the connections, or the time, or the financial runway to pursue it. But I saw something in her. She was bold, creative, a little chaotic, but in a way that made me feel like maybe life could be about more than numbers and client deadlines. So, I supported her, not just emotionally, financially too. I offered her a way out of the job she hated. I told her to quit, to go all in on her dream, take the unpaid internships, focus on school, make the right connections. I'd take care of the rest. It felt like an investment in our shared future. I thought we were building something together, and I backed that belief up with action. I signed the lease on a stylish downtown apartment for her over $3,500 a month. She loved the artsy aesthetic, the light, the space. I co-signed the lease on her Audi Q8, $100 a month. I added her to my credit cards, told her to use them freely. Her wardrobe, groceries, art supplies, even her gym membership and meal kits, I took care of it all. Every dollar, no questions asked. I didn't monitor the charges. I'm in logistics for a living, so I spend my days managing details for other people. When it came to my own relationship, I didn't want to be the guy checking receipts. I wanted to trust. 3 years. That's how long we were together. Our anniversary was this past Tuesday. I had dinner reservations at a place she'd mentioned a dozen times. It wasn't easy to get in, but I pulled some strings. I even bought her a necklace, simple, understated, a sapphire on a thin chain. She always said she didn't like flashy jewelry. I thought I knew her taste. I thought I knew her. I came home early, excited to surprise her. The lights were off. Her coat was gone. No big deal. I figured maybe she went to grab something. At 7:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from Kayla. 7 words. I found someone else. Don't contact me. That was it. No explanation, no build-up, no apology. Just a cold, final line that split my world in half. I stared at the message for what felt like hours. At first, I couldn't process it. I was trying to figure out if this was a joke or a mistake. Maybe she meant to send it to someone else. Maybe she was having some sort of breakdown. I was reaching for anything, any excuse to delay the truth. Then a strange calm took over. It wasn't peace. It wasn't anger either. It was more like clarity. Her words were absolute. There wasn't a single breadcrumb left to follow, not even a crack in the door. She didn't say I'm sorry or I need time. She said she found someone else. And she wanted nothing more to do with me. So I replied with 3 words, as you wish. Then I turned off my phone, opened my laptop, and switched gears. It was like flipping a switch from boyfriend to strategist, from emotional to operational. Kayla had terminated whatever arrangement we had. Fine. I would now dissolve the financial side of things cleanly, efficiently, without looking back. First, the credit cards. I logged into my bank account and removed her as an authorized user. On both cards. Immediate deactivation. She'd no longer have access to my accounts. Next, the card Viati lease was in both our names. I couldn't cancel it outright, but I disabled the automatic payments. The next bill was due in a week. Let her new guy figure that out. Then the apartment. The lease was solely in my name. I pulled up the PDF contract, found the break clause. It required 60 days notice and a 2-month penalty. Annoying, sure, but straightforward. I drafted an email to the property manager, invoking the clause and CC'd myself for a record, one by one. I went down the list. Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, her boutique gym, the meal delivery service, her phone line on my family plan. Passwords changed, accounts closed, permissions revoked. It took me 45 minutes, tops. When it was done, I sat in the quiet of that apartment feeling nothing. I left the necklace on the kitchen counter, packed a small bag and drove to my brother's place. I didn't want to be around when or if she came back for her things. Days went by, not a word from her. The silence didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. In a way, it confirmed everything I needed to know. She'd moved on. Just like that. Then, Friday afternoon, her card must have declined somewhere, because the text started rolling in. First, it was, "Can we talk?" Then, "I didn't mean to hurt you." Then, confusion. "What's going on with the car?" Followed by anger. "You're ruining my life. You're unbelievable." I read every word, but I didn't respond. And then, Saturday morning, came the real kicker. An email, subject line, urgent, regarding Kayla Vance. It was from a law firm, Some downtown partner claimed he was representing her, said he needed to urgently discuss the sudden and malicious withdrawal of financial support. He made it sound like I'd abandoned some kind of legal duty. That's when I realized Kayla wasn't done. She thought she could end our relationship with a 7-word text and still expect me to keep financing her lifestyle like nothing had changed. And that's where this story really begins. The email from Kayla's lawyer didn't surprise me as much as it should have. It came 3 days after I'd cut her off completely. No money, no apartment, no car payments, no free ride. At first, I'd expected silence. Maybe some angry texts, maybe a voicemail or two. But instead, I got a formal message from a partner at a downtown law firm. Clean, corporate language. No emotion, just pure legalese. The subject line read, "Urgent, regarding Miss Kayla Vance." I opened it, half expecting it to be a request to return a forgotten laptop charger or something petty. But no, it was a demand to speak with me immediately about the abrupt and malicious cessation of established financial support. Malicious cessation. That was the phrase he used. Like I was a villain for no longer funding the lifestyle of a woman who dumped me via text. It was so absurd, I actually laughed. Still, I wasn't stupid. I knew better than to handle this alone, so I called my dad. He's been running a construction company for years, and he's dealt with contracts, lawsuits, and shady characters more times than he can count. He told me to get in touch with Mr. Phillip, his longtime attorney. Said he was tough, practical, and didn't waste time. Mr. Phillip met with me the next morning. I gave him everything: the email, the context, the relationship details, and most importantly, the 7-word breakup text Kayla sent me that ended everything. He sat back in his chair, pushed his glasses up his nose, and gave me a look like a disappointed professor examining a messy case study. Then he said, "Well, son, it appears you've encountered a new species of predator. It wasn't judgmental. It wasn't cruel. It was matter-of-fact." He read the letter again, then smiled. "This phrase, malicious cessation, is a bluff. It's just inflated legal fluff, like a toddler throwing a tantrum with a thesaurus." He told me not to respond myself. Instead, he drafted a formal reply to Kayla's attorney. Mr. Bobby, it was polite but firm. He stated clearly that Kayla and I were never married. We didn't share any joint assets, and that our relationship and the voluntary financial support that came with it was ended by her, not me. He attached a copy of the text as proof. The line: "I found someone else. Don't contact me." Did all the heavy lifting. Mr. Phillip closed the letter with a direct instruction. All further communication should be sent to his office. No more emails, no texts, no phone calls, no drama. I felt relieved. I thought that was the end of it, but instead of backing off, they pivoted. 2 days later, Mr. Bobby sent a new letter. It wasn't a threat this time. It was a proposal, something they called a confidential transitional support agreement. I read it 3 times just to believe it was real. They wanted me to continue paying Kayla's rent and car for the next 6 months. On top of that, they requested a $20,000 parting sum as a gesture of goodwill to avoid a now public legal battle. They painted it as an act of grace, a peaceful settlement, but all I saw was a shakedown dressed in polite language. The letter made claims about Kayla's significant emotional and professional investment in the relationship. It said my sudden withdrawal of financial support had derailed her career trajectory and caused severe emotional distress. I showed the letter to Mr. Phillip. He didn't even blink. "Let them try," he said. "This is smoke, no fire. They don't have a leg to stand on. Filing a real case would be malpractice." He told me to ignore it. Let them waste their money chasing ghosts. I followed his advice, but the real unraveling started when reality finally caught up with Kayla. That Saturday, I got a call from Judith, the property manager at her apartment complex. Kayla had shown up, unannounced, with a guy named Russell, her new boyfriend. I assumed they demanded access to the unit, even though Kayla's name wasn't on the lease. Judith shut them down immediately. She told me Kayla caused a scene in the lobby, started yelling that her life's work was trapped inside. Russell tried the classic intimidation act, saying, "We can make this very difficult for you." Judith just pointed at the no trespassing sign and said, "Try me." A few hours later, the texts came. This time, they were directly from Kayla, ignoring all the legal instructions. "You can't do this to me. My entire internship portfolio is in that apartment." Then, another. "The dealership just called. The Audi payment bounced. That car is in your name too. You're wrecking your own credit. Are you that stupid?" That one actually made me smile. My credit is rock solid. One missed payment wasn't going to hurt me. I knew exactly how much room I had to maneuver. Then came the guilt trip. Russell is a real man. He's a successful real estate developer. He can't believe how childish you're being. He says you're playing games you can't win. I took screenshots of every message, forwarded them to Mr. Phillip. He was delighted. Direct contact after legal counsel had been engaged. "That was gold," he said. "She's the gift that keeps on giving." But the lowest blow came the next day. A mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot of Kayla's private Instagram story. It was a selfie, tears in her eyes, makeup running. The caption read, finally escaping a financially abusive and controlling relationship. The road ahead is terrifying, but I'm grateful for those showing me what real support looks like. #survivor. She was painting me as an abuser. For cutting her off after she left me for someone else. That crossed the line. Mr. Phillip immediately began drafting a cease and desist letter. Slander, defamation, false statements, all applied. And now it wasn't just about money. It was about reputation. That night, I sat on my brother's couch. Reading those words again, #survivor, it hit me how twisted it all was. Kayla wanted to burn every bridge on her way out, and still expected me to keep footing the bill. She wanted the breakup, but not the consequences, the freedom, without the fallout, the new boyfriend, without losing the old benefits, but she was about to find out what accountability actually feels like. I wasn't going to attack her. I wasn't going to retaliate. I was just going to keep the receipts and let her dig her own hole. By the time the move-out day rolled around, I thought I had everything locked down. Every step of this disaster had been calculated, measured, documented. Mr. Phillip had drafted the inventory list. 2 professional movers were scheduled to be on site. Kayla's lawyer, Mr. Bobby, confirmed in writing that he'd be there in person to supervise. Everything had been arranged to the letter. I just wanted it over with. Saturday morning, 9:45 a.m. I get a call from one of the movers. "Hey sir, your ex and another guy are here already. They said their lawyer is running late and asked if we could get started." Immediately, my stomach tightened. Something about the timing felt off. I asked if Mr. Phillip had arrived yet. They said no. I told the movers not to let anything leave the apartment until our attorney was there, but it was already too late. Trying to be helpful, the movers had let Kayla and her new boyfriend Drusilla into the building's lobby. They were already inside, hovering like vultures over things that weren't theirs. I called Mr. Phillip, he called Mr. Bobby. Bobby claimed he was stuck in traffic, said he'd be there in 30 minutes. Maybe it was true. Maybe it was a setup. Either way, I had to hold the line. I called the movers back, told them firmly nothing leaves the apartment unless it's on the approved personal effects list. If it's not boxed, labeled, and listed, it stays. No exceptions. That's when Kayla and Russell started playing every card they had. First, Russell tried to act like he was in charge, told the movers they were his crew, that he had paid for everything and they needed to listen to him. That didn't work. Then Kayla tried to cry, said the movers were intimidating her, that they were making her feel unsafe. Another tactic, another delay, another distraction. But it all came to a head over the furniture. Kayla insisted the custom bookshelf, the ergonomic office desk, the memory foam mattress, and the 65-inch-old TV were gifts, that they belonged to her. Now let me be clear. None of those things were hers. I had receipts. All of them. Still, Kayla and Russell started trying to move the TV out themselves. That was their line in the sand. But here's where hiring professionals paid off. The lead mover, a big guy named Daryl, stepped in front of them, calm but firm. He said, "Folks, that item is not on the approved inventory list. Please set it down." Russell, already puffed up, tried to square up. "And who are you to tell us what we can or can't take?" Daryl didn't blink. "I'm the person this man hired to prevent theft from his residence. Now, put it down, or I call the police." Right at that moment, Mr. Phillip walked in. Impeccable timing. He looked at the two of them, then at the TV they were clutching like it was some trophy. Without raising his voice, he pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of every receipt. Every item in dispute was documented with my name. On it, purchase dates, credit card transactions, delivery confirmations, all of it. Then he looked at Kayla and said something that silenced the entire room. "Since your legal counsel is not present, and since this is a clear breach of the agreement, I'm advising you both to remove only what is listed and leave everything else behind. If you attempt to remove anything not on the inventory, we'll be filing a police report for attempted grand larceny." You could feel the shift. The performance was over. The tears, the bluffing, the fake power plays, they all fell flat. Kayla's face flushed red. Russell looked like he was about to explode. But they didn't argue. Not because they agreed, but because they'd been cornered, outmaneuvered, and outnumbered. They grabbed the few boxes that were legally hers, clothes, toiletries, some art supplies, and stormed out. But not before leaving one final mess. Literally scuff marks on the walls. Trash left behind. The movers told me Russell kicked a wall on his way out. The landlord sent me a $1,200 bill for damages. I sent the invoice straight to Mr. Phillip, along with the mover's written incident report. He forwarded it to Mr. Bobby's office with a dry one-liner. "Please advise your client accordingly." But here's where things took an unexpected turn. I thought the drama would end there. The failed grab undrun, the unpaid car, the apartment meltdown. I thought I'd seen it all. I hadn't, because while I was busy cleaning up the logistics, Kayla was still out there performing. Remember that tearful survivor post she made on her private Instagram? The one where she claimed to be escaping a financially abusive relationship? Well, it backfired. She worked well and turned a small prestigious art gallery. It was the kind of place where reputation meant everything. Everyone knew everyone. The community was tight-knit. Small world. Turns out, one of the junior curators at the gallery, a woman named Leslie, had seen Kayla's post. I'd met Leslie a couple of times at events. Through Kayla, she knew me well enough to know that the idea of me being some manipulative, controlling monster was complete fiction. She didn't confront Kayla, she didn't call me either, she just showed the story to a colleague. From there, the story spread quietly, but fast. Whispers turned to conversations. The post made rounds within the gallery circle, and suddenly, Kayla wasn't being seen as a brave survivor anymore. She was being seen as something else entirely, a leech user, a toxic person who tried to destroy someone's name while living off their money, then tried to rewrite the narrative when the consequences hit. Less than a week later, the gallery director pulled Kayla aside. She didn't fire her. Not officially. She just told her that the internship was no longer a good fit. No drama, no confrontation, just a quiet severing of ties. I didn't plan any of it. I didn't make a single call. The truth did the work for me. All I had to do was stay silent and let the story tell itself. That's when I realized revenge doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes, justice moves in whispers. She wanted to leave me and keep all the perks. She thought I'd keep paying for her dreams while she lived them with someone else. She thought she could rewrite the past and make me the villain. But real life doesn't work like that. Actions have consequences, and when you treat people like disposable bank accounts, eventually the card gets declined. After the move-out fiasco, I thought maybe Kayla would let it go, that she'd pack up her pride with those boxers, disappear into her new life with Russell, and stop trying to drag me into her unraveling mess. But I underestimated her need to control the narrative. She hadn't just walked away from the relationship, she was now actively trying to rewrite how it ended. And not just to her friends, she was taking it public. It started quietly. Mutual friends I hadn't heard from in months started reaching out. One messaged me with a confused, "Hey, you okay?" I saw Kayla's story. Didn't want to assume anything, but it didn't sound like you. That's when I realized something else was going on. Someone else sent me screenshots from her Instagram, a private story. Her face half in frame, red eyes, mascara streaks. The caption read, "Trying to heal after escaping a controlling, financially abusive relationship. I was trapped for years, now I'm finally free, but terrified. #survivor, #new beginnings." She didn't mention me by name, of course. She didn't have to. Everyone knew who she meant. It was a punch to the chest. It wasn't enough that she ended things with a 7-word text. It wasn't enough that she tried to keep the apartment, the car, the lifestyle. Now she was painting me as an abuser to justify her behavior. And the worst part, some people believed it, because that's how this works, right? Once you use the right buzzwords, people stop asking questions. They just take your side and run with it. People I hadn't seen in years were reposting her story, leaving vague comments about toxic men and freedom. The weight of it hit me harder than I expected. I'm not perfect, but abuse, manipulation, that's not who I am. I never tried to control Kayla. If anything, I enabled her completely. Financially, emotionally, practically. I funded every step of her dream, even when she gave me nothing but distance in return. So yeah, that story broke something in me, but not in the way she wanted. I called Mr. Phillip the next morning. I sent him the screenshots, the forwarded messages, and a written statement of everything I'd done since she walked away. He didn't hesitate. "We're drafting a cease and desist," he said. "Slander and defamation aren't buzzwords, they're real legal grounds. And if she keeps this up, she'll be learning that firsthand." While Mr. Phillip handled the legal side, I stayed quiet. I didn't post anything. I didn't defend myself online. I didn't text her. I didn't take the bait. But the fallout, that started to spread on its own. Kayla's reputation, already shaky after the gallery internship ended, took another hit. Apparently, the gallery community, the one she wanted so badly to break into, had been paying attention. And people in that world, they talk a lot. Quietly, yes, but relentlessly. Leslie, the junior curator who had seen through Kayla from the start, reached out again. She told me the whole story had gotten around, that people were talking behind closed doors, not just about Kayla's character, but about the way she burned bridges so publicly, all while playing victim. "She's done here," Leslie said. "No one's going to recommend her now. Not after this?" Then came the real twist. A week later, I got an email from Leslie again. This time, it was a link to a Facebook post public long raw. It was from Kayla's father. I didn't even know he was on social media. He hadn't named me directly, but it was obvious who he was referring to. He wrote about watching his daughter walk away from a man who had, in his words, built her a ladder to every opportunity she ever asked for. He described her new relationship with Russell as a complete disaster. According to him, Russell wasn't a developer. He was a commission-based real estate agent with no stability. Kayla had believed his Instagram image, the nice car, the slick suit, but it was all financed on debt. The pressure of trying to keep up with her lifestyle, one I had previously funded, had apparently torn them apart. The fights, the financial strain, the instability had broken them within months in the gallery. Her dream internship gone. Word had gotten out about her survivor story, and most people weren't buying it anymore. She'd gone from being seen as a victim to being seen as manipulative, entitled, and immature. In the post, her dad admitted that Kayla had moved back home. No career had been repossessed. No job, she couldn't find work in the gallery scene anymore. No friends. Really, most had distanced themselves after the story got around. His final words hit like a hammer. She traded stability and loyalty for flash and fantasy. And now she's paying the price. My daughter chose a snake over a ladder, and the consequences are her own. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel triumphant. Honestly, it just felt heavy, because I remembered the version of Kayla I first met. The woman who lit up when she talked about art. Who used to get so excited over gallery exhibits. Who once cried tears of joy when I surprised her with tickets to a museum show she thought she'd never get into. But that woman was gone. Replaced by someone who'd rather build a lie than admit she made a mistake. I forwarded the post to Mr. Phillip. He just replied, "Poetic. Let's keep it in the file." At this point, the legal fire had gone out. Mr. Bobby Herlo. One last letter after receiving the incident report and the damage invoice from her attempt to take the furniture, but even that was full of bluster and nothing else. Mr. Phillip replied with a clean, deadly paragraph. He reminded them that any future attempt to sue would be met with a countersuit for damages, legal fees, defamation, and emotional distress. He attached every receipt, every email, every screenshot. End. Then he ended with the line, "We have the records. Do you?" We never heard from them again. That was the moment I realized it was actually over. She couldn't touch me anymore. Financially, not legally, not publicly. The truth had done what it always eventually doesn't, surfaced. Loud enough to drown out every lie she tried to tell. And me. I got to walk away. Not with revenge. Not with triumph. But with something better. Peace. I always thought closure would come in some dramatic moment. Maybe a confrontation. Or some final line I'd deliver that would tie the whole thing up neatly. But the truth is, when the end finally arrived, it was quiet, still, almost peaceful. Mr. Phillip sent that final reply to Kayla's lawyer, the one with all the receipts and the subtle threat of a countersuit. There was nothing. No response. No more legal letters. No drama. Just silence. And in that silence, I found space to breathe again. I started by clearing out the apartment. Not just physically, but emotionally. I donated the furniture she once fought over to a local charity that helps families rebuild. Watching it all get hauled out the door, the custom shelves, the memory foam mattress, even that old TV she and Russell tried to walk off with, it felt like shedding dead weight. The apartment echoed with emptiness, but for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel lonely. It felt clean, like a reset. I paid the lease break penalty, closed out the last of the shared utilities, Expania, canceled everything that had her name tied to it. The last string was finally cut. Then, slowly, my life fell into a new rhythm. Work, which I'd been juggling throughout this chaos, became my anchor again. I threw myself into my projects, and with every passing week, my focus sharpened. Clients noticed. So did my bank account. My evenings were simple. The gym, dinners with my brother Luis, who honestly deserves a medal for how much he held me up. During all of this, sometimes we'd just sit in silence, drink a beer, and watch some mindless show, and somehow, that silence said more than any advice ever could. The anger faded too. That was the part I didn't expect. At first, I held on to it, used it like fuel. But eventually, it just burned out. All that was left was a scar, a reminder, and oddly, a sense of gratitude, because I learned more in those few chaotic months than I had in years. And then, came the final, unexpected twist. Leslie, the junior curator who had worked with Kayla and helped expose her false survivor story, reached out one last time. It was a short email, polite, kind. "Hey, I hope you're doing okay. Things got pretty messy here. After Kayla left, thought you might want to see this." Attached was a screenshot of a Facebook post. It was from Kayla's father. I hesitated. Before opening it, I didn't want more drama. But curiosity got the better of me. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't an attempt to defend her. It was something else entirely. Something raw. He didn't name names. But every word was clearly about his daughter and what she had done. He wrote about watching her walk away from a stable, supportive man for someone flashy and shallow. About how she let go of her dreams of becoming a fine arts curator for an illusion built on debt and ego. Russell, it turns out, wasn't the high-powered developer he pretended to be. He was a commission-based real estate agent living on borrowed time and borrowed money. His income was erratic. His lifestyle was smoke and mirrors. And when Kayla moved in with him, bringing her high-end taste and entitled attitude, the fantasy crumbled fast. The bills piled up. The fights got louder. The pressure mounted. Then the consequences started rolling in. Her internship? Gone. Word had spread about the survivor story. The lies, the accusations. The art world, tight-knit and reputation-driven, had quietly closed its doors on her. Her friendships dwindled. People distanced themselves. Not because they took my side, but because they saw who she really was when things fell apart. The car, repossessed. The lifestyle. Over Russell? Gone. According to her dad's post, their breakup had been explosive, ugly, and in the end, she had nothing left. She'd moved back home. No job, no car, no future in the field she once loved, just her childhood bedroom and a mountain of regret. The part that hit me the hardest was how her dad ended the post. She had a ladder to her dreams, and she jumped off it for a snake. The consequences were complete, and they were all natural. He wasn't blaming me. He wasn't even defending himself. He was just heartbroken. And for the first time since this all began, I felt something unexpected. Pity. Not revenge. Not triumph. Just sadness. For her? For what she threw away? For the version of herself she could have become. I replied to Leslie's email, thanked her for sending it. We had a short, warm exchange. She told me she admired how I handled everything. That I didn't go public. That I let the facts speak for themselves. It meant more than she probably realized. And that was it. No courtroom showdown. No dramatic ending. Just quiet. My life is mine again. I've started seeing a therapist. Not because I'm broken, but because I want to understand why I let it go so far. Why I ignored the signs. Why I thought giving someone everything would make them stay. I'm rebuilding on firmer ground now. I still believe in love. Still believe in dreams. But now I know helping someone reach their dream doesn't mean becoming the floor they walk on. It means walking beside them, not carrying them. I haven't heard from Kayla since. No texts, no calls, no attempts at reconnecting. And honestly, that silence is the greatest gift of all. She lost everything. But me. I got my life back. Not the one I had before. A better one. Wiser. Stronger. Free. And if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that justice doesn't always come in dramatic scenes or harsh revenge. Sometimes it's just gravity. What's built on lies eventually falls under its own weight. And me. I'm finally standing tall.